Our first question today from Mrs. Elizabeth Moynihan of Beaconsfield. Assuming that a pill could be produced which would relieve anxiety without impairing judgment, does the Brains Trust think it would be wrong for human beings, as a matter of course, to solve their problems with the aid of pills?
Certainly not. Why should it be wrong? If, after all, we solve our problems with all sorts of aids, including pills already. I mean, people take medicines when they're ill, and when they're psychologically ill, they go to psychoanalysts, which is not indeed taking a pill, but a much more laborious process, and perhaps far less effective. If this pill did relieve anxiety and had no secondary effects, I can see no reason otherwise shouldn't be taken.
Grey Walter.
Very deep and delicate question, this, you know. Now, the fact that something's done doesn't mean it's right. And I suppose the best pill of all is alcohol, which relieves anxiety. Dutch courage is ancient and honourable exercise. But it certainly does impair judgment, and this, I suppose, is the root of the question, really, is the premise. Is it possible to dissect out from human temperament or human feelings one aspect, anxiety, and leave judgment unimpaired? Actually, by definition, not, because the judgment itself must depend upon the feeling of tension. There's something that's important. There's some important aspect of the environment that, for which there may be no solution, for example.
And if it were possible, would you see anything morally wrong in it?
I don't think morals come into this.
You don't?
No, not in this sense.
Aldous Huxley.
Well, I don't see anything morally wrong with it, but I do see, for example, one sees it already in the abuse of the tranquilizers, that there are many situations in which a certain amount of tension is important. I mean, obviously too much tension is a disease, but on the other hand, there are many circumstances in which too little tension is almost a disease. And to damp oneself down in moments when tension would be a valuable and biologically useful thing seems to me most dangerous.
So Julian Huxley?
Well, I really have very little to add to what Aldous has said. I think I agree entirely. I think the question is based on this premise, and I think, as Grey Walter has said, I think it's probably impossible to get something which would relieve you of anxiety and yet leave your faculty of judgment totally unimpaired. But it's a question of which is the more important at any moment, the over-anxiety state or the need for clear judgment. I mean, if, for instance, I mean, I've just been reading Montgomery's articles in the Sunday Times. If he'd been worried about the progress of the war and had taken tranquilizers, we mightn't have got the good results that we have. He'd have relieved himself of anxiety, but he wouldn't have had the judgment.